everybody, and welcome back to the Girly Girl Bookworm. So today for you, I have my end of July wrap up. It's been a hot second. We went to Disney from August 1st to August 8th. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll film this before I leave. That did not happen. And then I was like, it's okay, I'll film it when I get back. It won't be that late and we'll be good. And then I got home and my brain has been legitimately fried. I have yet to finish a book for August. And it's August 13th. So that's not like me at all. So there will be no part one wrap up, I don't think, for the first half of August because, like I said, I have yet to finish anything. So unless I can finish something in the next 2 days, which hopefully I can, I'm in the middle of I've DNF'd a lot and I'm in the middle of 3 books. So hopefully I can finish those 3 and maybe I will make a beginning of August wrap up. But guys, it's been slow going for me. But I enjoyed my time in Disney with my kids and my in-laws and my husband. So definitely well worth the mushy brain, but I have a mushy brain right now. So yeah, let's just dive into how the end of July went. And yeah, let's just dive in. So I meant to tell you in the beginning of July, I started Real by Kennedy Ryan, which I DNF'd, I guess. I started reading it and then I never finished it. I think I just wasn't in the mood for it at the time. So I'm not saying it's a hard DNF by any means, but I was losing interest in it, I think, or something, and I didn't end up finishing it. So I did start that one in July. I didn't finish it. Why? I don't know. And then one that I think I talked about in the first half was that I was reading Under the Southern Sky by Christy Woodson Harvey, and I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. I did not like this one as much as I thought I was going to. We are following our main characters. One woman, she ends up getting divorced from her husband, and she was always somebody who was very okay with not having kids, and she's known from a young age that she could carry a child, but cannot get pregnant herself. So she was in the middle of talking about this book, and then my computer just completely glitched out. I thought I lost my computer forever. So let's see if we could try to get through this again without losing my entire computer. So this book is about, like I said, a woman who knows that she can't have children, and she's kind of okay with it. And then when she gets divorced, she starts wondering, wow, maybe I was supposed to be a mom. Maybe this is something else that I should be looking into. In the meantime, her childhood friend, a guy who always kind of had a crush on her, his wife ends up dying from cancer. And before she dies, they actually froze her eggs, thinking that if she had beat the cancer, that they would be able to do something with her eggs and have children later. And our main character, she is also doing research into embryos and what happens to them, abandoned embryos, and she sees her friends embryos on the abandoned list, because when the wife passed on, he kind of didn't know that they weren't being maintained because she was dealing with all the payments and things. So he decides to save them, and they kind of have this idea of what if you carry my kids? Can I stop a piece of my wife? And that whole thing. And I thought it was good. I just feel for something that sounded like such an emotional story, I was never emotionally invested, which sounds so awful, but I didn't care. Their relationship was weird to me, so I don't know. I liked it. I just didn't love it, so I gave it 3.5 stars. And then I read The Hotel Nantucket by Ellen Hildebrand. This one I ended up giving 4 stars to. It's not my new favorite by her, but it still was very good. We are following this hotel that is opening in Nantucket by this very rich man. Nobody really kind of wants this hotel coming here. There's a woman who was working at a restaurant. She is going to now be the leader of this hotel. This hotel has also never been able to maintain business because there is a secret ghost that lives there, and we get her perspective. And we're just kind of following a bunch of people who work there. And we also know that there's this blogger, Instagrammer who ranks hotels. So they're constantly on the lookout for this person because this person is anonymous. So they're always trying to make sure that they are doing things top notch because they want, no, this person has never given a 5th star, well, she calls them keys. She's never given 5 keys to a hotel before, so they really want to be the first hotel to get 5 keys. I liked it. It just was very long, and I just felt like there were so many characters and so many name drops. I did really like that she did drop in characters from previous books, so like it was kind of nice seeing that. But I've also been reading Ellen for years, and I've also read a million books, so sometimes I was like, do I know that person? Am I supposed to know that person? So it kind of got a little convoluted, but still a very solid read. Not my new favorite by her. And then I read Deep Water by Emma Bamford. I do have the art copy, but I didn't have this for review. I traded somebody for their copy, which I'm very glad I did, because I saw it and I was like, oh, they'll let me trade a book that I've already read for this one. That's great, because then I don't have to pay full price for it. And I'm so glad, because I would not have wanted to pay full price for this book. This book is about this like naval ship is out there in the water, and they come across this like woman who has like a husband who's like dying, and they're trying to take care of him, but they're also trying to figure out like how these people got into this situation in the first place. And it was just so boring. Like, this book is barely 300 pages. It's 299 pages, and I felt like nothing was happening for such a good chunk of the book. Like, the one nice thing was it was so short and it was really easy to read. So I read this within a day, and I'm so grateful that I didn't waste more than a day on it. Like, I gave it 3 stars because it was very just like generic, fine book. Like, there was nothing about it that I was like, oh, I hate this. But there was nothing that I really loved either. So it went with 3 stars. It is very atmospheric. You do feel like you're on this boat, but like, I would rather read Reckless Girls than this. And, well, granted, I gave Reckless Girls 5 stars, but, like, I would rather read Reckless Girls than this. And then I listened to The Lions of Fifth Avenue by Fiona Davis, and I gave this one 4 stars. Did not love it as much as I loved Magnolia Palace this year, but it was still very good. I love Fiona Davis. She writes dual timeline perspectives. We are following somebody in 1913 and somebody in 1993. Laura Lyons is living in the New York Library because her husband is like the, what do they call it? Superintendent of the library, I guess. And so like she gets to live in the library, and she has 2 kids, but she wants more for her life. She wants to be a journalist. And so she kind of ends up in this like journalism school, which kind of like she ends up in the thick of learning about this like secret like feminist society where people kind of come together and talk about women's problems. And so her eyes are kind of being extremely open to the world. And at that time, like books and like valuable things were getting like stolen. And in 1993, we're following Sadie, who is her granddaughter. And she is a curator at the library, and almost similar situation, books are getting stolen, and she is trying to figure out what's happening. And I liked this story. It was very good. I gave it 4 stars. Not that it's forgettable. Like, I could tell you what happened, like, if I went into spoilers, but it's harder to give, like, a general synopsis of it without giving spoilers. I did like it. I don't know if audio is the way to go with her books. I think I would have done a little bit better if I physically read it than listening to it, but you live and you learn. It was still very good, so I gave it 4 stars. Then I read Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. I will say, if I had read this before my mid-year freakout tag, I think one of my new favorite characters would have to go to Marsalius. So we're following this woman, and she's kind of nearing the end of her, like, what she feels like is the end of her, like, days. She has lost her son. She's lost her husband. She's just been working at this aquarium, and she feels like maybe it's time that she just, like, gives everything up and goes and lives in, like, a senior home. So we're following her. We're also following Marsalius, who is this octopus at this aquarium that she works at, and he is near the end of his days too, because octopuses don't live very long. They live for about 4 years, and he knows that his time is coming to an end. So we're getting his perspective. And then we're following this man. He lives somewhere else. I can't remember where he's originally from, but he is on the hunt for his birth father, and he comes into town. Guess what town it is? The town with this aquarium, and he ends up involved in their story. And this was beautiful. I gave this 5 stars. I cried. I was really nervous that this book was getting too hyped because everybody was talking about it. And I was like, there's no way this is as good as everybody's been talking about. I'm so scared to read it. So I kept putting it off and kept putting it off. And I finally read it. And it was so sweet. I laughed at parts. It was so cute. I love Marsilius and I want more Marsilius in my life. And then I read The Blame Game from Sandy Jones, and I got this through NetGalley. And Sandy Jones. I don't know what to do about her. I really don't. There's books by her that I love, and there's books that I just don't. And unfortunately, this is one that I just don't. If you look at my review on Goodreads and Instagram, I give this book 3 stars, but the more I keep thinking about it, the more I'm like, I think it's a 2-star read. Like, it follows a therapist who gets, in my opinion, way too close to her patients. She's dealing with 2 patients, and they are dealing with domestic violence issues. That's kind of like her focus of what she does for her practice. And one is a man and one is a woman. They're not in the same relationship. They are like 2 different patients. And one of these patients goes missing, and the police start looking at her, that she might have had something to do with it. This book is difficult because it was very easy to read. Like, I read it like a day split. Again, it was another book that was like just about 300 pages, so very, very, very easy to read. But like, she is just like cringy to read from because as a therapist, she crosses way too many borders and too many lines. And by the time we got to the ending came out of so left field and was so confusing. Like, I finished it and I went, what actually happened? Like, what was that? Like, that's the payoff we're getting. It was not good. It was not good. I did not like it. So 3 stars, but probably should have been 2. So sorry, Sandy Jones. Another beautiful cover, another disappointment for me. Which is weird because I've given her books 5 stars. I've given her books 4 stars. I've given 3. I've given 2. Like, her books are just so all over the place, but I like continue to read her. And then I finally listened and finished the audiobook for The Book of Magic by Alice Hoffman. I got this in my October Book of the Month box, and I was really excited because I was just finishing up Practical Magic, and I was like, okay, I'm going to be able to read this one next, because I read this in like chronological order. And I think when I read it the first time, I got like 50 to 60 pages in, and then I just stopped. Why? No reason. I just stopped. And so I put myself on hold for the audiobook, and it finally came through. It felt very odd reading this in the middle of July, but I was like, I don't care. I'm reading it. And I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I really liked how this ended. I really liked the wrapping up of all the characters. I loved seeing old characters come back, and it was a really sweet story. I'm very glad that I finished the series. I'm kind of glad that there's no more books because I feel like Alice Hoffman's writing is just very interesting to get into. I'm also excited because I've never seen Practical Magic, and I was waiting to read this to watch Practical Magic because I didn't want to blur the book story and the movie story and then try to get back into this and be like, what was from the movie? What's real? What's not real? Kind of thing. So now that I finished this Halloween season, I will be watching Practical Magic. So excited. Then I read The Darkness of Others by Kate Houlihan. She is kind of an auto-buy author for me. This is, I think, the first one that I've actually read for review because I own her other 4. I think this one comes out soon. End of August, I think. This one is a story about a man. He is kind of like a director, I think, of sorts, with movies and things, and he is found dead, and his wife is missing, and we are following like the wife's best friend who has taken their daughter in. We're trying to figure out where the wife went. So we're following Melissa, who is the wife. We're following the friend. We're following this woman who, I'm trying to think of how to describe her. The best friend's husband owns a restaurant, and this other woman works at this restaurant. This is also during COVID, so COVID is brought up a lot. So if you are not interested in books that have to do with COVID, stay away from this one because COVID is in this one. This is one that I find very difficult to read to give a synopsis for. I went into it completely blind, and then I read the synopsis and I was like, this isn't really what this book was focused on. Like, it was, but it wasn't. Like, it just, the synopsis I feel like doesn't match the book. I feel like this is a book that I would just say go in with nothing except for kind of what I've already told you and just go with it, just roll with it. So like I said, I gave this one 4 stars. I found it very easy to read, really interesting. I liked the ending. I feel like I would almost even count this as like a beginner thriller. Like if you are looking for a beginning to thriller type of story, this one's probably perfect for you. And then I read Notes on Your Sudden Disappearance. I used to own this one. I have gotten rid of it. I've already sold it. Just because I gave it 3 stars. It's just not something I would read again. I found it very interesting. Like, I was reading it and I was talking to my husband and I was like, it's so weird because I feel like I'm not liking it, but I also cannot put it down. We are following a girl whose sister is dead, and we are kind of following like their relationship, like and she writes it as if she's talking to you, like as if you are her sister. So it is in second person. So it'll be like, oh, you were like this and you treated me like this and you talked to me like this and you said this. And we follow like before she dies, and then we see the relationship of what it looked like before she died. We follow it as she's dead, and like kind of like the immediate, like what were the effects, and then like the after story. I found it interesting. It just didn't do much for me. In terms, like, it was a good read. Like, I couldn't stop reading it, but also the ending bothered me. I'm trying to think of how to say this without spoiling it. You know how like people got invested in How I Met Your Mother, and then the ending happened, and you were like, I just watched all of that for that. Like, seriously, that was stupid. Yeah, that's how this slightly felt for me. If you've read this, let me know so that way we can like talk about it, because that's how I left feeling this book out. And then I read More Than You'll Ever Know by Kate Gutierrez. This is a book that I started and I read probably about like 50 pages, and then I like kind of put it down. I was like, maybe I'm not into this book. Maybe I need to DNF it. And then I kept going and I was like, never mind, I like this one. I think my issue is I went into this expecting kind of like a thriller, and this is definitely more like a literary fiction with historical fiction with a mystery element. So we are following a woman in our current timeline, and she is kind of very much into true crime. She writes true crime articles, and she ends up finding this story about a woman who had 2 husbands, and it only got revealed when one of the husbands killed the other husband. And the wife has kind of never told her story, so she decides to look into this story further and get the wife's perspective. So we are following that timeline, but we are also following the past timeline as this woman is telling her story. So we are seeing what happened and how she ended up in this dual life. And I liked it. I gave it 4 stars. You need to go into this knowing it's going to be slow. It's not a fast-paced read at all. It's something that you are going to take your time with, but you are going to enjoy it. So I ended up giving it 4 stars. Do not go into it expecting a thriller, because that is not the case. And that was almost my downfall, because that's what I thought I was getting. But very interesting story, very slow paced. If you like true crime, you will still like this one. Then I read The Secrets of Paper and Ink by Lindsay Harrell. I listened to this one on audio. I've had this one forever. I was so excited about this book because I read a previous book by this author, The Heart Between Us, I think it was called. Yeah, The Heart Between Us, and I really liked that one, so I was so excited for this book to come out, and then it came out, and then I didn't read it, and then it continued to sit on my shelf, and I continued to not read it, and then I found it on Hoopla, and I was like, maybe this is my time. Maybe I just need to read it. And it was just okay. I gave it 3 stars. We are following a woman, her husband, her husband has died, and she's trying to like re-find herself. So she goes to Cornwall, and she finds this like job in a bookstore. And this bookstore is being run by another woman, and this woman's husband has kind of like left her. like unofficially has left her, like just kind of disappeared for a while. So she's trying to keep this bookstore running. So which is why she kind of opened up this ad for somebody to live there and work for her. And in the same thing, we are following somebody like in the way past. It's like we find a notebook with journal entries from a woman named Emily Fairfax, who was a governess who lived in this town like 150 years prior. And it's like her story. This just had so much going on. Like it had these three women, and these three women I felt like were very interchangeable. Like it was like, who am I reading from? What am I listening to? So it was just an okay story. It just didn't do anything for me. And then the ending of this one too, for the woman in the 1500s, was it 1500s? No, 150 years ago, like the person from 150 years ago, the governess, like her storyline at the end was just like, this is stupid. This is so stupid. So unfortunately, I did not like this one. Well, like I liked it. Like it was fine. It was easy to listen to, but it didn't do anything for me. So this one will probably also be getting sold. And then the last thing I read was So Happy for You. I listened to this one on audio through Hoopla. This one I saw because Kayla from Books on Lala was reading this book, and she was like, oh yeah, I don't think everybody will love it, but it has to do with a wedding. And I was like, sold. So I found it on Hoopla on audio, and I was like, I'm just gonna go for it. This is one that I was like, I'll listen to a little bit and then I'll be done. And I finished this in like 2 days. Like I finished this one so fast. This is about a woman named Robin, and she gets asked to be in a wedding, and this is kind of like not her thing. Like she is gay and just is not about like the like gender norms and like things that we do. So she's like, please don't make me be in this wedding. I don't want to be in this wedding. But like she's like so loyal to her friend that she's like, fine, I'll be your maid of honor. I don't want to be, but I will be. And so there's lots of social commentary. We really are majorly focusing on their friendship, of like how they became friends, like what their friendship has looked like throughout the years. But we're also following this wedding, and crazy stuff starts going on. And it's funny because a lot of people have said that Robin is the main character, like that as a main character people don't like, but like I did not like her best friend. Her best friend was awful. And it was just a wild ride. There were times where I was just like, is this really happening right now? Like that's happening. If that happened to me, I don't know what I would do. So this story was just wild. Like I said, though, it was primarily a friendship. So, like, don't go into it expecting a thriller. It does start off with, like, did you want to know how me and my best friend almost killed each other? Keep reading. So, like, it's got, like, that kind of element where, like, you know something creepy is happening, but it's not necessarily, like, focused on the creepy, if that makes sense. So, I can see why Lala said this won't be it for everybody, but I thought it was a good time, and I gave it 4 stars. So, that's all I read in July. I'm sorry for the little brief snippet weirdness in the middle of this video, but I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys really, really soon. Bye, everybody.